Joining me now is the Honourable Chrystia Freeland. She's a member of the Canadian Parliament. She's a candidate for the Prime Minister of Canada. She served multiple positions in the Canadian government, including having been the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. She's also served as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, where she led Canada's team during successful renegotiations of NAFTA, and also as Canada's Minister of International Trade, where she oversaw Canada's successful negotiation of free trade with the European Union. And not to mention an old friend of mine, but she's done all these things in between. So she's the perfect person to have this conversation with. Chrystia, it is great to see you. Thank you for being with us. There are a few people. You lived here in the United States and worked as a journalist, a financial journalist, as I did here in the United States. So you really understand the intricacies of these long-held relationships, particularly between Canada and the United States. What's the most important thing Americans need to think about as we enter a potential trade war with Canada?
Good morning, Ali. Great to be with you. The most important thing for Americans to understand is this is an act of huge self-mutilation. Doing this will hurt America really badly. And that is because the economic relationship you have with Canada right now is balanced and mutually beneficial. If you take out energy, which I think you need and which I don't think you want to tax, America actually has a trade surplus with Canada. And putting a tax on the energy you get from Canada seems like a really bad idea. A bad idea for American consumers, a bad idea for people buying groceries or filling their car up with gas, a bad idea for American industries. And if you think about aluminum, for instance, and the threatened 25% tariff on aluminum, and Canada is your primary aluminum supplier. Aluminum is basically electricity in physical form. Putting a 25% tariff on Canadian aluminum means a 25% tariff on electricity. And the United States right now is hungry for energy. You need more of it, particularly as you are focused on China as your global competitor and the AI race with China. AI is very energy hungry. And now you're talking about putting a tax on electricity. So my first message for Americans is this is just a really bad idea for you. It just doesn't make sense. You're going to hurt yourselves.
These trade agreements with Canada and ultimately with Mexico have been largely seamless. Obviously, for government officials like you, you've had to go in and negotiate, and there are complaints and things like that. But generally speaking, most Americans don't, and to some degree, most Canadians don't feel it. They just feel that they get access to things they otherwise didn't have access to. So let's go back to oil and electricity. Two things. By far, oil is the biggest import that we get from Canada, but the electricity, too. Give us a description about how this works. Why is it that America relies so heavily on Canada for oil and electricity?
Well, I'll give you one example, Ali. If you didn't have Canadian electricity, the lights in your building right now might not be shining. And Trump Tower, you know, that famous escalator, it might not be operating because you get electricity from Canada for New York. A lot of your oil comes from Canada. So when people are filling their tanks up with gas, they should say, thank you, Canadian friends, for providing this. And truly, at a time when consumers don't want to pay higher prices, at a time when the United States needs more energy rather than less, it is just self-defeating and self-mutilating to be talking about putting a tax on the energy you get from us. And, you know, we have a very clear piece of evidence that that is the case. When President Trump threatened very clearly to impose 25% across-the-board tariffs on Canada and a 10% tariff on Canadian oil and gas, that was on a Saturday. And on the Monday, the stock market fell. That was a very clear market reaction saying, dear United States, you're about to hurt yourself.
Hey, this is interesting because the stock market, every time these things lurch forward, the stock market does fall. Donald Trump pays more attention to that than any other economic measure out there. Why is that? Donald Trump's got supporters in the stock market. He's got supporters on Wall Street. Many of his economic team, people you deal with on the other side, understand that, generally speaking, tariffs can be an important tool when used properly. Generally speaking, when used as a scalpel, when used as a sledgehammer across the board, they generally result in inflation over the medium term. That's a problem Canadians are going to have, but it's a problem Americans literally voted for Donald Trump to solve.
You are exactly right, Ali. And I think, the relationship with Canada is unique. And that's why when tariffs are proposed on Canada, you get such a negative stock market reaction. Because the reality is the trade is balanced and mutually beneficial. I mean, Ali, in your intro, you talked about the trade deal that governs our relationship. And here's the paradox. Right now, we have a trade deal, USMCA, we call it CUSMA, which was negotiated by Donald Trump. It was negotiated by Donald Trump. It got support from Nancy Pelosi when she was Speaker. President Trump has called this the best trade deal in the world. So it's pretty absurd to be trying to violate that. And I think the other reason we're seeing such an adverse market reaction is Canadians are really united right now. I would say Canadians are resolute. There is a wave of patriotism here in Canada, the likes of which I have not experienced in my lifetime. And Canadians are really united around the conviction that if you do hit us, if these tariffs come into effect, we will hit back and we will impose dollar for dollar retaliation. Now, some of your listeners, Ali, may be thinking, well, so what? We're so much bigger than Canada. Why would that matter? But the reality is Canada, uniquely in the world, is in a position to have economic leverage in this relationship. The fact is we are America's largest export market by far. Canada by itself buys more from the United States than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. So you could have those four countries retaliating against you. They wouldn't have as much leverage as Canada on its own. And, I think Americans are the ones who invented the term, the customer is always right. Well, we are your biggest customer. So watch out. If you hit us, we will hit back. And our retaliation, unlike these across-the-board tariffs, is going to be surgically targeted. We're going to design it so we do the minimum harm to ourselves and have the maximum impact in the United States. And we are going to target constituencies that have particular influence in the White House. So one of the things I am proposing is a 100% tariff on Teslas. And I am inviting all the countries in the world that would be affected by these tariffs to join us. I think that would get us some attention in the Oval Office.
I want to talk more about these surgical tariffs and the response that you're going to have after a quick break. Chrystia Freeland, former Canadian Deputy Prime Minister, former Minister of Finance, and many other things, is going to stay with us. We'll be right back. More. Rejoining me now, Chrystia Freeland, Canada's former Deputy Prime Minister and candidate for Prime Minister of Canada. I want to, Donald Trump often says tariffs are the best word in the English language. They're neither a good word nor a bad word. They're an instrument that can be used effectively. But when they're not used effectively, what you do is you force industries and countries to find other channels to sell their goods. In other words, the stuff that Canada sells to the United States, valuable stuff. Electricity, oil, resources, let's just discuss how this could unfold. And I want to read from something that you wrote in the New York Times earlier this week. These new import taxes are a turning point for Canada and the world because they suggest the United States is making an historic change in its understanding of who its friends are and indeed of whether it is interested in having any friends at all. If America, which controls approximately 25% of the global economy, pursues a punishing trade war with Canada and its other allies, all of us will have no choice but to seek other friends wherever we can find them. No choice but to seek other friends wherever we can find them. How does that manifest in a trade discussion?
Well, look, Ellie, I said at the beginning that there is this wave of patriotism in Canada, that we are resolute, we are determined, we have zero interest in becoming the 51st state. We love our country, and we are going to fight for our country. But I would also say there's a feeling right now of being insulted, and maybe even a feeling of anger and sadness, because we're your neighbor. We are your best and closest ally. You know, the 20th century is often referred to as the American century because it was a time of the rise of America to become a superpower, even a hyperpower. How much of that was made possible? Because you had Canada all along your vast northern border. You've never had to worry for a minute about that. You have an ally, secure, prosperous, friendly. And we don't expect you to think about us a lot, but we sure don't expect you to try to beat us up. And so I do think Americans need to think very carefully about how they are treating their NATO ally, their NORAD ally, a country with whom they have a recently renegotiated free trade deal. And, you know, I would say there is an exit ramp. We love having a win-win relationship with the United States, and that is what we historically have had. But when we keep on getting insulted, when we keep on hearing from the president that he wants to use economic coercion to force us to be the 51st state, I mean, think about that for a minute. Our sovereignty is being directly challenged, and that could have really long-term consequences, both economic, but also in terms of where Canada seeks friends and builds alliances around the world.
You used to be a journalist like I am, so you spend some time fact-checking. I want to do a little fact-checking on what Donald Trump said about Canada having stolen the U.S. auto industry. It's too complex to get into the history of the U.S.-Canadian auto trade, but it's actually it's an example of a remarkable success. It's had setbacks, it's got enemies, and it's got supporters, but it's really complicated. To suggest that Canada stole the U.S. auto industry is really, it's a lie.
It absolutely, Ali, and actually the history is the opposite. You know, our trading relationship began with cars, and it began with the Car Pact, and the basis of that was the U.S. and Detroit wanted access to the Canadian market. This was a deal that the United States wanted so you could sell us your cars. And we agreed, because we're neighbors, because it makes sense, we did a deal to say, let's make cars together. That's what we do right now. A part in a car made in North America crosses the Canada-U.S. border while that car is being made 6 or 7 times just in the production of the car. Now, imagine there's a 25% tariff on it. And that is why you are seeing the U.S. car companies, their share price really suffer every time a tariff is suggested. It just doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense for us, but crucially, it doesn't make sense for you. If the U.S. goes ahead with this, you will see real damage being done to workers in America's industrial heartland. That is why the steel workers, the USW, when the first tariff threat was made against Canada, came out and said, Mr. President, this is a really bad idea. Don't do it. And I'll tell you who else will be hit. American farmers. The American Farm Bureau also came out and said tariffs on Canada are a bad idea, something people maybe don't widely appreciate. We provide your fertilizer. More than 80% of the potash American farmers use, and that is essential to growing food to feed America, comes from Canada. So you want to put a 25% tax on your farmers? It just doesn't make sense.
Chrystia Freeland, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being with us. Chrystia Freeland is a candidate for Prime Minister of Canada. She's a former Deputy Prime Minister, and she's a former Minister of Finance.